Most people believe intelligence agencies exist to uncover secrets. The popular image is one of hidden plans, concealed intentions, and unknown threats waiting to be exposed at the last possible moment. Intelligence is often portrayed as a dramatic process of revelation, where decisive information is uncovered just in time to change the course of events. This image is reinforced constantly. Films present intelligence as a race against the clock. News coverage frames intelligence success or failure around whether an attack, crisis, or political development was predicted in advance. Political rhetoric often implies that intelligence agencies should see everything coming, and that failure to do so represents incompetence or negligence. In reality, this understanding is fundamentally flawed. Intelligence agencies do not primarily exist to uncover unknown information. They exist to manage uncertainty. This distinction is critical because it reshapes almost every assumption people make about what intelligence is for and how it should be judged. Most of what intelligence agencies work with is already visible in some form. Public statements, economic indicators, diplomatic communications, media reporting, satellite imagery, and open-source data provide enormous volumes of information about the world. States signal their intentions publicly far more often than people assume. Crises rarely emerge from complete invisibility. The challenge intelligence agencies face is not a lack of information, it is an excess of it. Information arrives constantly, unevenly, and often contradicts itself. Signals are mixed with noise. Genuine indicators of change are buried among routine developments that ultimately mean very little. Intelligence does not replace open information. It evaluates it. It compares sources across time. It assesses credibility, consistency, and context. The core task is not discovering facts, but determining meaning. Analysts are not asking what happened so much as what matters, and what does this suggest about what may happen next. This is why intelligence products rarely provide definitive answers. Instead, they offer probabilistic assessments. They describe ranges of likelihood rather than certainty. They outline competing explanations and identify where confidence is high, where it is moderate, and where it is weak. This is deeply unsatisfying to public expectation. People want answers. Intelligence provides judgments. People want certainty. Intelligence offers structured doubt. When intelligence is judged by whether it predicts specific events, it appears to fail constantly. When it is judged by whether it reduces uncertainty for decision-makers operating under risk, it performs a very different function. Understanding intelligence, therefore, requires abandoning the belief that certainty is the objective. It is not. The objective is disciplined uncertainty, managed deliberately rather than ignored. One of the most persistent misconceptions about intelligence agencies is the belief that they exist to prevent events from happening. Attacks, wars, political crises, and strategic surprises are often framed as intelligence failures simply because they occurred. This expectation fundamentally misunderstands the role intelligence is designed to play. Intelligence agencies do not make decisions. They inform them. They do not control policy, military action, or diplomatic outcomes. They provide assessments that decision-makers may accept, reinterpret, delay, or ignore entirely. This distinction explains why intelligence is so often blamed for outcomes it never controlled. When an event occurs, intelligence is judged retrospectively against perfect hindsight. Signals that were ambiguous before the event become obvious after it. Warnings expressed as probabilities are remembered as absolute predictions that were supposedly ignored. This creates the illusion of failure even when intelligence performed its intended function. In many cases, intelligence identified risks accurately, conveyed uncertainty honestly, and outlined possible consequences. What followed was a decision to accept those risks anyway. Another widespread misconception is that intelligence agencies possess complete visibility. The assumption is that if something happened, intelligence must have known about it in advance. In reality, intelligence collection is fragmented, delayed, and uneven by design. Access varies by geography, topic, and moment in time. Some regions are saturated with collection capabilities, while others remain opaque. Some actors communicate extensively, while others operate with extreme caution. Information arrives incomplete, shaped by source reliability, technical limitations, and institutional constraints. Gaps are not anomalies within intelligence work. They are structural features. Contradictions are expected. Certainty is rare. Analysts work with partial views of complex systems, not complete maps of reality. This is why intelligence agencies emphasize patterns rather than isolated facts. Single data points are treated cautiously. Meaning emerges only through repetition, comparison, and contextualization over time. An event rarely matters on its own. What matters is whether it represents a deviation from established behavior or fits within an existing pattern. Intelligence agencies also do not operate as a single, unified mind. They are collections of analysts, collectors, and institutions with differing access, priorities, and interpretations. Disagreement is normal. Consensus is provisional. Internal debate is not dysfunction. It is a safeguard against false certainty and collective error. What intelligence agencies actually do on a daily basis is far less dramatic than popular portrayals suggest. There are no constant emergencies, no continuous revelations, and no single moment where uncertainty suddenly disappears. Instead, intelligence work is slow, repetitive, and methodical. Analysts spend most of their time reading, comparing, and contextualizing information that often appears mundane in isolation. Reports are reviewed not for novelty, but for consistency. Developments are tracked over weeks, months, and sometimes years to determine whether change is real or merely apparent. The central analytical question is rarely what happened. It is whether something represents a genuine shift or simply variation within an existing pattern. This distinction matters because reacting too quickly to apparent change can be as dangerous as failing to recognize real transformation. This work requires patience and restraint. Analysts are trained to resist pressure to produce conclusions before evidence justifies them. They are taught that premature certainty is more dangerous than acknowledged ignorance. As a result, intelligence assessments are framed carefully. Language is deliberate. Words like will and certain are avoided whenever possible. Confidence levels are stated explicitly to prevent judgments from being misinterpreted as guarantees. This caution is often mistaken for weakness by those unfamiliar with intelligence work. In reality, it reflects an institutional awareness of how easily judgment can be distorted by overconfidence, bias, and narrative momentum. Another critical function of intelligence agencies is contradiction. They exist not to confirm prevailing assumptions, but to challenge them. Analysts are expected to identify alternative explanations and articulate why their own assessments may be wrong. This practice slows decision-making and creates discomfort. It complicates policy discussions and resists simple narratives. But it protects against systemic failure driven by shared misjudgment and unchallenged belief. Good intelligence work rarely provides emotional satisfaction. It sounds cautious, qualified, and incomplete. It rarely offers the clarity people want. Yet this restraint is not a flaw. It is the defining feature of analytical integrity. Understanding intelligence agencies also requires understanding their limits. They are not truth machines. They are not prediction engines. They are not guarantors of security or success. Their role is to structure uncertainty, not eliminate it. When intelligence is treated as a promise of foresight, disappointment is inevitable. Failures are framed as betrayals rather than as limitations inherent to operating in complex, uncertain environments. In many cases, intelligence has already fulfilled its function before failure is declared. Risks were identified. Probabilities were conveyed. Uncertainty was acknowledged. What followed was a decision to accept those risks. Intelligence does not remove responsibility from decision-makers. It clarifies the consequences of the choices they make. When outcomes are unfavorable, intelligence is often blamed because it is easier than confronting the reality of decision-making under uncertainty. Seen from this perspective, intelligence success is quiet and often invisible. It appears in avoided escalation, in calibrated responses, and in decisions that acknowledge risk rather than deny it. The public rarely notices these outcomes because nothing dramatic occurs. No event marks the success. No headline announces the absence of disaster. This invisibility contributes to frustration and misunderstanding, reinforcing the belief that intelligence should provide certainty rather than judgment. Closing this gap between expectation and reality begins with understanding what intelligence agencies are actually built to do and what they were never meant to provide. Intelligence is not a shield against uncertainty. It is a disciplined way of confronting it. This file was never meant to be noticed. This was Shadow Archives.